Ravi Gupta ji, you continue being on stage, and we are going on to our next session, domestic branding and opportunities for export. May I invite Mr. Gopal Sood ji, please, to join us on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please, to chair the session. Gopal ji, you'll chair the session. Thank you, sir. May I invite Shri Nayak Navre ji, please, on the stage. Big round of applause. May I invite Mr. Siddharth Amin ji, please, on the stage. Thank you. Great having you, sir. Mr. Singh from Praj, are you here? You wanted to make a point, sir? Please make a point.
So I thank basically organizers for giving opportunity to me. On behalf of Praj Industries Limited, I'd like to highlight that Praj has a dedicated research center which is dedicated to biofuels only. And we are building up 2G ethanol plant for IOCL.
You have to ask your question.
Yeah.
We're in another session. So what is your question? So please say your question. Thank you.
We had a discussion basically of grain versus sugar. Praj is basically, with Sakar Sangh is building up a plant with Javan sugar for biosyrup. So biosyrup is an option which can make the deficit between, this can be a balancing act between grain and sugar. So biosyrup can be stored for the whole year and it can meet the requirement of whatever less. So biosyrup can solve the problem, and their biocomposting along with biosyrup can reduce the cost of production by 2 to 3 rupees per liter. So that I wanted to make a point, that biosyrup along with biocompost can be the best option and which can solve the problem of grain fluctuations. So that was my point.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. We'll get that answer. Thank you very much. We move on. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. We move on, and Sood Saab, you're going to chair the session. The mic is here. Thank you. Big round of applause to Sood Saab. Thank you.
Be here among very close friends, Ravi, Mr. Nayak Navare, and Siddharth. Now, this session, in a way, is a bit forward-looking. Basically, two directions, both a great value add and balancing, like beginning with branding of sugar and finding a major outlet for marketing, which is exports. Branding, as we all know, is a very, very interesting concept of value addition and customer satisfaction. The classic case is branding of water, which is something which is available free, and yet so much value has been created that you're willing to buy a bottle of water at 15 to 20 rupees a liter, the ordinary one. And I'm very happy that we have Ravi Gupta, the director of Renuka, and a company whose product is the largest volume in branded sugar today. And a personal note that I had something to do with starting of this product, maybe way back in 2008. And on exports, as we know, largest volume has been from Maharashtra and Karnataka. And who better than Nagnawari? He worked 12 years with the cooperatives in Maharashtra as managing director of the federation here. And now he has a national responsibility. When was it? 2016, 2018, I think the second. Doubts were raised at that time whether our ports are will come up. We have so much else to export, so can we export 3 to 4 million tons of sugar? And then AISTA held a one-day seminar where brilliant presentations were made by Ravi and Siddharth on port capacity, about how things have changed. And now, between that year and now, we have seen about 10 million tons of sugar is going to be handled, along with a whole lot of other things, 20 million tons of rice, and last year 8 million tons of wheat as well, and a lot of other commodities, and a lot of incoming commodities. Beside that, I don't know if Siddharth has brought it, but a subject very dear to him is the quality. Quality of packaging, the way sugar bags are handled, and marking and things of that sort. So, like, with these opening words, I'd like to hand over to Ravi to make his presentation.
It's my pleasure to speak under chairmanship of SUSAB. SUSAB is veteran in the commodities. Have been my boss for good 7 years. So in Louis Dreyfus, we started working together right from scratch. The first day in Louis Dreyfus was that we were sitting in the table, sharing that table with our landlord. And that time we had got a one ship full vessel load of white sugar to sell in Calcutta market. So that was our beginning. Is the presentation happening? So just sharing the past memories, sweet memories. Branding. There is a presentation on branding. In the meanwhile, sir, can we, with your permission, can we interchange, because Siddharth's presentation is ready with him, so that we kind of don't waste time in, yeah. I'll request Siddharth to present first. In the meanwhile, they are sorting their IT stuff.
Good afternoon, friends. Pleasure to be here once again this year at AISTA'S Forum, and my fellow delegates on the stage. I'm actually honored that I'm sharing this with SUSAB, and of course, a very old friend also, Ravi Gupta. I can also relate to the fact of their relationship when they started at Louis Dreyfus. I was trying to pitch in my business to both of them in the Tanna House Annex in Bombay, and finally it was SUSAB who gave me that breakthrough in the Dreyfus organization, and we've seen many days of common working thereafter. One of the interesting subjects that they gave me to speak on was the possible export challenges for sugar, impact of other agri-products, exports. One of the things that I heard today was from the presentation made by Claudio Covirug, who said that India is the new Brazil. I think he should have also mentioned that India is also the new Thailand for rice. And in a way, it was going to be the new replacement for Ukraine till the surgical strike on 13th of May. In terms of feeding the world, I think India has done very well over the past few years. With rice, we've given the world a substantial amount quantity of maize. And not yet, sir, I'm not asking. And we've given them a substantial amount of maize. We've given them wheat. And we've also caused, in the meantime, some kind of a nightmare in some of the areas in the country. What we are going to present today is the possibility of how it could affect the sugar exports. And whilst I'm also going to read you something that has been made with the first slide, I'll bring in a couple of points thereafter. Could I have my first slide on, please? Okay. So we've got some export numbers here. As you can see, I've put 3 years together, 1920, 2021, and 21-22. We are talking of sugar, wheat, rice, which includes basmati and non-basmati, and maize. What do you see here? Everything is going upwards. The only flattening kind of curve is linked to maize, but that's because that is exactly the amount that we can export. We can't do anything more than that. As one can see from this slide, over the last 3 financial years, each of these 4 commodities export trajectory has been on a consistent rise. Sugar, of course, we have taken into account the amount that is exported by the port-based refineries also, as this does contribute to the general movement at the port locations itself. Whilst this level of export signals economic growth for the country, steady yields from the farmers and a sustained effort from both the government and the trade, it does raise the question of whether our country is logistically prepared for its own potential. The Agricultural Ministry in particular, in partnership with the trade and the farmers, have made it clear that India will continue to be a sugar and rice exporter in the coming years. God and weather willing, this will be met. Then with geopolitical issues such as the Ukraine-Russia war, India was asked to export rice and fill the gap and feed the world. Initially, this was met with a great gusto by the government and the trade, allowing farmers to reap the monetary benefits and allowing the government of India to ease the burden of storage and being the humanitarian nation that we are, and we will always strive to be. In pure terms of wheat, which is the line shown, the second line which you see, we've moved from exporting just approximately 220,000 tons to about 2.09 million tons to 7.35 million tons. This is actually a rather troubling trend when you consider to match it with sugar primarily. Why? What's happened is that the port of Kandla has been the gateway for exports of sugar from northern India and quite a bit from Maharashtra also. It is this port that has got choked with wheat. And how choked is it? As on date, there is about 1.2 million tons of wheat lying in warehouses in the port. There's about 200,000 tons of wheat on trucks, which includes probably railway deliveries which have arrived over there. And this is completely blocked. The sugar that should have gone out from this port over this last 5 months, let's say the UP millers were going to export raw sugar, they would have been stuck badly because UP's gateway for exports is Kandla. And this would have been a mess. It is fortunate that UP millers this time were concentrating elsewhere, and the only place they delivered their sugar to was the port-based refinery at Kandla. Now, with 1.2 million tons of wheat stored in warehouses, there is absolutely no space to store sugar. And today's waiting list for sugar, I think there are 7 vessels to load bagged sugar in Kandla, with the first vessel waiting 38 days now. The second vessel is waiting 30 days, and there are 5 after that with between 25 to 8 days of waiting. And if you were to ask me when any one of these are going to come alongside to start loading the bagged sugar, nothing is certain today. Because the government of India, I would not say withdrew the priority, but did not give any priority for sugar vessels, but gave priority to the wheat. And today wheat has come to a standstill. Whilst it has come to a standstill, these warehouses are not being emptied. If warehouses are not being emptied, you can't move your sugar from anywhere in the north to the port of Kandla. So there are a couple of exporters who've got probably deliveries on the exchange taking place. Some have got raw sugar planned to export from Kandla. They are seriously and severely struck. So this is one of the biggest problems that the country is facing is this bottleneck of Kandla. Next slide, please. I bring you to this slide where we've created this throughput at certain ports, commodity-wise. You have we've selected 5 ports, 5 locations, because these are the 5 which have handled maximum amount of sugar. The bottlenecks reiterate the obvious. To highlight the urgent need of better logistics and management all along the agricultural supply chain. With volumes like these and such logistical constraints, the quality of our products and our reputation as an exporting and reliable country cannot be compromised. The factor that must be considered is domestic movement and consumption also. For example, for sugar, if we were to export, say, 8 million tons, there is still roughly 26 million tons that is being consumed domestically, now probably 27. The movement of that sugar and the supply chain side support that it requires also to be taken into account when it comes to the allocation of transport and other necessary resources. I'm sure we are all in agreement of the fact that our domestic consumption requires the same, if not more, amount of importance as our people must come first. Now, in this slide, what we're communicating to you is that when it comes to sugar, we have developed the port of Jaigarh and Angre and Hazira that have brought in a substantial amount of gateway for Indian exports. Between the 2 ports, the latest figures show that we moved close to 2.7 million tons of our sugar out of these ports. Kakinada has come up as an alternative. However, that is linked primarily being used by the Kakinada refinery. A bit of it has gone out from Maharashtra, which is in Karnataka, which has moved sugar into Kakinada, and we've shipped sugar out from there. Those vessels have primarily gone to the Southeast Asian markets. Interestingly, I have not covered over here, but some of the gateways that have additionally opened up have been the ports of Gangavaram and Krishnapatnam. Both have been used this year to export sugar. However, the logistics cost of moving sugar to these ports does take away quite a bit of your margin. The only thing it gives you is an alternative by having your vessel not wait at a congested port. So, kind of offsetting your demurrage and delays in delivery versus a transportation cost that you want to take it higher and ensure that you complete your shipment in time. One more port that we have found which was not participating for quite a few years was Tuticorin because of the collapse of the Tamil Nadu sugar industry. This year we've seen movement of sugar even to Tuticorin. Once again, an outlet which was opened up because of the Kandla related factors. So some of the sugar that could have gone from Maharashtra and Karnataka into that port was diverted into Tuticorin, and we started having some exports from the south of India also. What one needs to look at is the logistics bottlenecks that has to be covered when you move these distances from one which are closer to where the manufacturing process is. Next slide, please. Now, this is, I'm sorry if the map is not very clear because we kind of downloaded it from the net, but what we are showing here is the commodity movements. Now, we've marked Uttar Pradesh in red. Why have we done that? There are 3 products that we are showing here in this slide, which brings the state of Uttar Pradesh into focus. It is the largest producer of wheat, and therefore it would move wheat to the ports for exports. It is the second largest producer of sugar, so that would move the sugar, which we have seen UP move sugar prior to this season twice in substantially large quantities. And it is a big producer of rice too. However, we haven't seen much of UP rice move to the ports for export, but Bangladesh, as a neighboring country, has bought rice and wheat from UP, which has been moved by rail wagons in substantial quantity. So UP has participated with these other commodities indirectly. From this table, we can see that while farming is an all-India enterprise, there are certain states that not only have a stronghold in the production of certain commodities, but also that these states have more than one USP product. Whilst most would consider it as an economic blessing in terms of income, employment, and growth, the challenges of producing more than one commodity in bulk poses significant roadblocks. From a transport perspective, bulk cargoes leaving the states more often than not are compelled to head to the same discharge port for export potential, for export. And it is simply not viable to distribute or disperse the quantities across multiple ports and or seaboards. UP is a standing example of a bottleneck. One would think that you can move to the East Coast ports. But here I must tell you, a few years ago, we tried to move wheat from UP via the ports of Calcutta and Haldia. And I tell you, it was a complete mess. Calcutta has no good storage facilities, so you couldn't prepare a cargo for exports. Haldia is similarly placed. It has no independent port facilities, warehousing, which can accept a substantial amount of export from UP. So what happens to UP is it continuously, you see all the direction going towards the West Coast ports. There's absolutely no movement that it can score from the East Coast. We finally saw some movement of Bihar this time, where some Bihar wheat and some Bihar maize went to the East Coast India ports. But that becomes a seasonal issue because Bihar's production of grain, when it is in a surplus state, and is in a surplus status rather for exports, it is its Rabi harvest. So maize can move to the East Coast ports, but wheat has just started and the government came with a ban. But the entire cluster of ports on the East Coast today are non-usable by production of agricultural produce from the north and quite a bit from central India. Yes, rice has been one commodity that goes out from East Coast in a big wave from Kakinada, but that rice is again a product which comes from Chhattisgarh, a bit from Orissa, Andhra, and you know Andhra, Godavari Basin, Krishna Basin is the rice bowl of India. So as far as the rice exports are concerned, it doesn't travel large distances as the other products would do. So East Coast India ports primarily are catering to sugar, is a gateway for sugar, but it's not economically viable. It has to be West Coast India. And West Coast India's only development primarily has been the three ports, Jaigarh, Angre, and Hazira, that have given this breakthrough for the Indian exports to about 3 million tons. You can't go back to Kandla all the time. That bottleneck is going to be continuously be severe for the entire campaign. One other port that could be considered was Paradeep. Paradeep has in the recent past developed a clean berth. The company JM Bakshi has created infrastructure there to handle clean cargo. It has good draft. It can accommodate much larger tonnages. The problem with Paradeep is two. First and foremost, it has no experienced labor to handle agri-products because it's been a strong mineral port, steel, ores. That's the fundamental product of this port. There is possibility of expanding those clean facilities in Paradeep to help exports out of UP. But there's a big question mark. When will that be ready? And when will the labor in that area have the expertise to handle agri-products? Because India, we still bring agro-products and we empty it in bags. Some amount of bulk movement was invented, was created, has happened. Atulji would know it's part of the Adani agri sector, but it is absolutely for the wheat domestic movement. We haven't stretched or expanded this logistical handling of bulk products from manufacturing states to destinations as yet. Next slide, please. Challenges of multiple products at ports. We've listed out some of them: warehousing and storage, rake restrictions, logjam of trucks and hence delay of arrivals, long vessel berthing list, incurring substantial demurrages, container availability when it comes to container shipments, and in many cases also labor availability. In fact, I've read a recent report of the Government of India's employment circle where it says that labor at the ports has substantially decreased year on year for the last 10 years. So when there were ports with say 60, 70,000 labor force, they are down to like 7, 8, 10, 12,000. This is the drop in 10 years of the labor that works at Indian ports. Let's look at what's happening in Bihar, from where they originated earlier, from Orissa. The Manrega scheme has kept quite a few people in their local homes, villages, plus a substantial amount of development in their own states. Why will they want to come out and live in remote locations, huts, water problems, food problems, living in quarters which are not healthy, unhygienic? They are remaining in their town. There's growth happening there. So port labor is coming down substantially year on year. With these points that have been mentioned, which are very self-explanatory, they become all the more important when we consider that the commodities and the export values. With the recent consistent rise in production to meet the export numbers, movement from the upcountry or hinterland to the coast has also required an increase in the number of rakes and railway wagons. While the Government of India has made considerable inroads in amping up the railways capacity, oftentimes the modes of transport are not fit for products for human consumption. I must tell you my experience or our experience as a group of the amount of wheat we have loaded into wagons where cement was the previous cargo. Fertilizer was the previous cargo. Now, the turnaround time for these rakes is also significantly increasing due to the necessary cleaning, inspection requirements, fixing of leakages, fixing of damages to the wagons, and certifying it for grain usage. At the other end of the supply chain lies the issue of port suitability for receipt and storage of these commodities. While certain ports have the capacity due to the history and experience of their operations, newer ports are having to constantly expand their storage capacity to remain viable and competitive. Not to mention that creating more storage space is one thing, having to be suitable and able to weather various issues is entirely another matter. Let us take the example of Kandla port itself. The wheat stocks, which I mentioned, 1.25 million tons, cargo lying on trucks, serious problems over there. And now we don't know what the fate of that cargo is because of the export ban. Maybe they'll come with some alternative, but till that time, everything is stuck completely. Nobody is aware of what the next state of affairs is. And to add to the plight of the labor and the truck drivers, there are truck drivers waiting now for 10 days, 12 days. There's no water for them. There is no food for them. There are no toilet facilities at these truck parking spaces. And the temperature outside is between 45 to 48 degrees centigrade during 14 hours of the day. This is the status of what a government of India can do with a policy of this kind of blanket ban. There are 10,000 people over there whose condition is utter misery. And I've seen it myself because I was there when the completion of the vessel that loaded for Egypt. They are in a pitiful condition. They were telling us, in fact telling me personally, that we will give you 2,500 rupees cash, sir, if you can get my truck emptied today. And one of them went to the extent of telling me that there are 15 of us, sir, 30,000 रुपये आपको अभी दे देते हैं, 15 दे देंगे एक दिन में, लेकिन आप चिंता मत करो, आप हमारी गाड़ियाँ खाली कराओ, 8-8 दिन से हम खड़े यहाँ पे. So this is the experience that we have had to that extent. Next slide. I'll just quickly run through a little bit of marketing for my company, get the opportunity to do that. As people brand their products, I can only brand my services. So here we are. We are across India, and we've put up this state-of-the-art food testing laboratory in Navi Mumbai. It does a huge amount of work on the food sector. So sugar is food, sugar application is food. You require us to test anything for you. Big team of Dr. Mean is here, and we can serve your purpose to that extent. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Yeah. So is my presentation is in place? Yeah. Thank you, Atalji, for correcting. The idea of this presentation is basically that in AISTA, we have members from all community, including manufacturers, traders, logistics partners, services, everyone. So the idea is that everybody should have something in it. And one of the new thing which is coming, which is developing very fast in India, is the branded sugar. So we thought we will sensitize about what we think about the branded sugar. To give you a perspective that, as you would all be knowing, that Renuka's mother brand, I mean, the right statistics are not there, but will be close to 40% of the total branded sugar market today, and present all across. So we thought whatever we think about the branding, and as a responsible industry player, we must share with all our colleagues that what is in it for us. First of all, let me take that to draw the parallel, how the branded packs, particularly in staples, has grown over the years. Look at the first commodity, salt, Dandi March salt, where there was no differentiation in the product. Salt was sold on the readies and loose form, how that market is evolved, that today, I think there is none of us who eats any Kulla salt and everything is packed or branded in form, and Tata Salt being the leader. Something similar happened even in the spices market, that today the branded spices market has grown multifold and it is increasing day by day. So these are the basic staple food which we consume day and night. And coming to pulses, a very similar kind of story. That pulses is also very basic commodity. There is hardly any differentiation. But with the brand, with the differentiation in quality, with the difference of trust, today you have branded pulses with a very high growth in the branded market as well. Similar thing in edible oil. Edible oil is a very big success story in branded oil. So if you look at it, all staples, we may not be noticing it, so closely, but even all our consumption in the staples is taking the branded form, and branded and packed form is more or less, goes in synonymous, but brand is a bigger recognition of a packed commodity. So sometimes it can be changed interpretedly. So the point which I was trying to make is that the staples, branded staple market has been growing in all segment, and sugar story is yet to unfold, and it is folding very fast. And why it is unfolding so late? The reason is that if you go by the history, up to 2001, we had a 15% levy, and levy to the retailers, where there was hardly any option for a consumer to choose the sugar quality which you also buy, because in the levy segment, the sugar was supplied bulk, and it was supplied and subsidized as a ration. So the market could not evolve itself. So after 2012, I just 10-year story, that sugar has become totally liquid, open market, unregulated market, and people have started talking, people have been given choices. So from where we have come and where we are now, in the past, मुझे याद है उनमें से कुछ लोगों को, आपको भी ध्यान होगा कि राशन की दुकान से अगर चीनी लेनी हो तो उसके लिए भी पौवा लगाना पड़ता था. तो leave alone, you have the quality choice, you have to make a choice, you have to make effort to get sugar from the ration store. And now we have come to a situation that we go to a store and we would like to pick up a brand of our choice in sugar. So that is the transition which has taken place now. And what are the driver of these branded sugar demand which we see going forward? Number one is that our e-commerce is increasing big time. The traditional retail the e-commerce which was 3% of the market is increasing to 2.3 times to 7%. The base was small, but it is increasing at a much faster pace. Online grocery market is increasing by 37%, has already done that. So when you are buying sugar online, it needs to have a brand, it needs to have a recognition, because the person who is ordering, he cannot say ki khulli 1 kilo chini dena, he has to say what sugar he wants. So that itself is increasing the branded market. Second is organized retail. When I say organized retail, mainly in India, you have hypermarket or supermarket or convenience stores like Big Bazaar, like Birla Retail, like Reliance Retail, and so on and so forth. So that organized retail is increasing at a CAGR of 10%. And in the organized retail, you feel a product before you buying. When I say feel a product, you have a feeling of the look of a product, you have feeling of the price of a product, you have feeling of the quality of the product, and you have a feeling of the trust of the product. So much so, on the packing, I have a couple of friends in US, they are working with the doctors. And doctor means who basically see your neurons. When you see a color of a pack, do you get the pure positive neurons escalation or no? So even the packing is something which helps in taking a decision. So, and organized retail gives you an option to display, and that retail is also increasing. Another thing is demography and social. Millennials, the young population in India, we have 34% of the population which is young population. The median age is 28.4 years. Youngsters do not like to go to a shop to buy sugar. They would rather pick up an app and order sugar, and when you order online, obviously you order a branded product. Urbanization is a very, very big thing which is happening in India. In India, urbanization is close to 35-36%, and it is increasing very fast. To give you a parallel, Brazil today urbanization will be around 88%. China will be 56%. We have been much, much behind in our urbanization, but with the building up infrastructure, rail, road, everything, the urbanization is increasing. And why urbanization helps in demand of a branded product? Because in the urban population has more choosy customers, and they have a higher purchasing power to pay for these staples. So that is another thing which is happening in a big term. Health and hygiene, particularly post-COVID, has become a way in our cautious. We all want hygienic product. I just gave an example of hand sanitizer here. Hand sanitizer earlier used to be considered luxury. But even if COVID has gone, but still we are in the same framework of mind that hygiene has become important. People now see कि खुली चीनी हाथ से तुली हुई खाने से अच्छा है. You have a branded product. That's why we have named our mother sugar lose nahi madhur sahi. So that is another factor which has taken place. And the customers are becoming more and more demanding. We sell sulfurless sugar, and most of the brands sell sulfurless sugar. I see that the market is even paying premium for the sulfate-less cosmetics. So the customer is becoming more and more choosy, and they are ready to pay when it comes to the food which they eat. So all this together, is aiding the branded demand. And another, last but not least, very important factor, even the institutional customers, they have become very, very choosy for ingredients. I was in Calcutta for some work, and I met somebody who makes sandesh. He was saying, sir, we only use pharmaceutical sugar for our sandesh, because his recipes demand, the consistent quality demands a good ingredient. And when somebody demands a good ingredient, he is ready to pay a price for that good ingredient. So that is another thing which is happening. So in nutshell, the e-commerce, organized retail, nuclear family also is increasing the demand of branded goods, because there were days when, there were 4 brothers living together and a family of 25 in one house, and there will be a 50 kg bag of sugar or 100 kg wheat, and everybody will use that for. Now the family size is becoming smaller. There is a family of 4, so you obviously need lesser quantities, so packaged goods is coming up. Young population, health, hygiene, ingredients. So I mean, all this is right, that there is a expected growth of branded sugar. But what is in it for people who are sitting here? One of the options is that you start your own brand. And just to give you a perspective on that, I'm not going to take you into account how to build a brand, what it takes to build a brand. I'm just going into very basics of it. Brand has generally 4 stages. So, अगर हिंदी में इसको बोलूं तो बाल अवस्था, किशोर अवस्था, युवा अवस्था and वृद्ध अवस्था, right? बाल अवस्था, child, needs lot of care, lots of investment. You have to build up a character in him. You have to bring value into him. You have to only give, nothing comes out. You try to give, he runs away. No, I don't need it. Doodh pee lo. No. Right? So, Bal Avastha of brand, similar thing happens in brand. You try to keep on investing, brand doesn't give you growth. Keep on investing, brand doesn't give it. Then you bring another idea, कि दूध में chocolate डालो. Right? So, building a brand is exactly similar to life cycle. It is not so easy. So, it's rearing up a child. When brand becomes young, the second stage of the brand, then it starts giving you a little bit of a return. That is the Kishore Avastha. Yuva Avastha, those who reach up to Yuva Avastha, they actually make money from the brand. But unfortunately, most of the brands does not cross the second stage. Child mortality rate is very, very high. Why? Because brands need huge investment, huge investment. Brand need huge patience, years. Atul, Susa was just mentioning that he started probably Madhur at 2008. I was not there in Renuka, so 2008 and 2022 now, 14 years. And we're just 30-40%. So it takes too many years to set up a brand. Perseverance, innovation, reliability of a product. I can tell you that probably most of us sitting here would have seen 4 specifications of sugar. But actually when it comes to sugar specification, there are more than 20 of it. So to have that kind of product outsourced is not an easy task. It takes a lot to maintain quality. Since we are in it, we have our quality head, Mr. Anurag, sitting here. We realize that it is very, very difficult to find the sugar which we pack in Madhur, because we are so quality conscious that one consistent quality is required, and it takes a lot to build up a brand. And another thing that slide is missing, that is the reason that in most of the countries, the large brands control most of the market. Let's say British Sugar in UK is 60% market share. I was in Dubai for some work, and I realized there is a sugar brand called SIS. That's like 20 rupees higher, but controlled around 50-60% of the market. And why is that the one brand controls most of the market? Because it is very, very difficult for other brands to sustain, because the cost of sustaining a brand is huge. It's a different business altogether. So that is why, for a brand to reach to Yuvavastha, take lots of time. Now, if that be the case, what all can we do to be part of this potential market? The branded growth, the growth in branded sugar will bring lots and lots of opportunity. That opportunity for a manufacturer is to pack for a branded partner. That opportunity is for you as a trader to source that sugar and supply a particular commodity. That opportunity is in warehousing. That opportunity is in transportation. That opportunity in sales. That opportunity in delivery. So lots of opportunity will come along with it. And by this service, which is provided to the brand, it is also a very, very profitable game. What it can do, that today the business of a trader is of a speculation. It can essentially change that speculative income to a marketing income. It can change the income of a brokerage to a service charges. It can give you a consistent return on the regular basis. So that is the opportunity, I think, which everyone should look to encash. And in the conclusion, I will say that choose your own path, whether you build up a brand or be a partner in the brand, but gear up rising trend in grocery retail, because early birds will catch the worm. Don't miss this growth story. Be part of it in whichever manner you think you should be parting in it. Thank you very much for being a patient listener.
Thank you, Raviji. Always, your thoughts which you share are always most welcome and full of content.
Thank you, Ravi, for extremely informative. In sugar, there's an additional challenge. When the factory stops production, you have to keep the brand on and store it for those 3-4 months till the next production comes and make sure the quality doesn't go down. Over to Mr. Naik, please.
One thing which I thought he missed out is you cannot play with consistency as far as brand is concerned. So it's important that brands maintain consistency, and the organization building a brand should build the brand for the company also, because it's either way. Yeah.
Is my presentation on there? Good afternoon, friends. The entire sugar world is astonished to witness the stupendous performance of Indian sugar exports. We all know that. अब जो इस बार सेंचुरी तो पक्का मारेगी. I know I'm making a very bold statement in view of, in light of all the discussion that we had since morning, but I have reasons for that. Yes, we have heard from Ravi and now Siddharth the concerns of logistics, the early monsoon projections, the port congestion, but still, no harm in keeping the optimism in mind. But the million-dollar question in everybody's mind here is what India does next year. इस साल तो हो गया, अगले साल क्या होने वाला है? किस डायरेक्शन में हम जा रहे हैं? क्या करने जा रहे हैं? So therefore, I have kept my title of my presentation as Sugar Exports Prospects for India in Sugar Season 22-23. Friends, after ascertaining from the organizers, I see the maximum participants here. They are representing sugar millers and traders, and they are more conversant in the numbers of lakhs than millions. So my friends from overseas, they can just put one decimal towards left and work out your million number. My presentation, I have converted everything into lakhs. These numbers are known to everybody, but the key factor is that during last 5 years, what I have tried to do here, I'm not talking of 1 year, last almost 5 years completing in September, India has successfully pushed 252 lakh tons out of the country. This is stupendous job. You see, we were under the inventory pressure, blocked capital, mounting interest. All that has been wiped out quite a bit because of these exports. The second point I would like to bring to your notice is in which the raw sugar share is 104 lakh tons. And the balance is 148 lakh tons, which is, of course, including the refined one. The share of raw sugar is increasing. If you see from 1920, 18.6 lakh tons become 29 next year. 29 has become 42 the current year. And subsequently, the whites are going down. Our whites are unfortunately branded as LQW, low quality white. But the good part is that Indian sugar industry has now learned to produce what the world wants, the raw sugar, which we are not much interested in doing it. And out of the cumulative exports of almost 252 lakh tons, the industry has done 87 lakh tons exports without government subsidy. This 87 is last year's 1920, almost 11 lakh tons, over and above 60 lakh tons, there was no subsidy. And so in 2021, we have done 11 lakh tons more, and in 21-22, 75 up till now. Now these numbers are, they would be always going up as the days go by. Next, please. The major sugar exports destinations, see, highlights of Indian exports, cumulative of 5 years is revenue generation of Indian rupees 65,300 crores. It's a huge money the industry has generated out of exports. And it has created Indian brand equity in major markets. If you name these, see the markets, first I'll go to the revenue generation. 17-18, 1,300 crores, become 8,000 crores next year, 14,000 tons. Look at the leap in which we are jumping, from 8,000 to 14,000 crores in 1920, 18,000 crores in 2021, and up till 30th April, we have done 24,000 crores revenue generation, which is definitely going to go up as the days go by. The major destinations have been Indonesia, which was a hard nut to break. I remember we had taken a government delegation under the then Joint Secretary Sugar, his leadership, and how much convincing that we had to do to the Indonesian government to accept our ICUMSA. They were wanting the ICUMSA about 1,200. We wanted to sell our ICUMSA between 600 to 1,200. The import duty, all those issues were those years. जो हमने मेहनत की उसका अभी नतीजा आया है कि Indonesia has opened their doors, they reduced our import duty, and we are seeing maximum exports that India has done is to Indonesia, followed by Bangladesh, then Djibouti. Iran has been a dicey situation, but Iran we have done sufficient numbers, and Afghanistan, of course, same holds good. So these numbers will definitely go up as days pass by. Next, please. Here is some interesting misnomer I would like to remove here. See, many people, including me, we are of the belief that when the Brazilian sugar season starts, the Indian exports get hampered. That is not the fact. That's what I want to show you here. The last column, if you see, the Brazilian season starts in April and ends in November. And India has done 35 lakh tons exports. If you take the average of last 4 years, during that period when the Brazilian sugar season is on. So there is something which we need to rethink about this. And this strength of our optimism, the first slide when I say, nothing wrong in keeping optimism, century to marna hi hai, so that is based on this, that even if Brazilian sugar season starts, which has already started, despite all the hurdles that Ravi and Siddhartha have been sharing with us, I'm still keeping the optimism that century to marna is sal. Now, next slide, please. The key highlights of sugar exports during 21-22 have been, see, these are the updated numbers of 15th May. Ravi gave us the numbers as of 7th May. So my numbers are slightly improved over that. It has become the second time largest producer of sugar in the world. Consequently, last year and this year, we are the #1 producer, and this may continue next year also. As we saw in the morning, Brazil is going to produce just about 319 lakh tons, as against our huge number. Indian sugar mills exported 275 lakh tons of sugar in 5 years, including the current season, which is going on. The current year Indian sugar mills generated 30,000 crores revenue from the sugar exports, which is up till now, of course, and which is definitely to go up by the time we reach September, the end of sugar year. Port-based state sugar mills, especially Maharashtra, Gujarat, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, they have been aggressively participated in the current export campaign. Cooperative sugar mills. Cooperatives have always been branded as non-performers when it comes to exports. But I'm very happy and proud to say that 55% of India's exports this year have been done by cooperatives. And I'm personally happy because I'm heading the cooperatives of Indians. And therefore, I think there's no need of clapping here. We have to go long way. 55 से आगे जाना है हमको. अगले साल भी हमें cooperatives का ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा शेयर लाना है. कैसे लाएंगे? That we will internally decide and discuss. But yes, it's definitely noteworthy. And India has now created the name and brand in major importing countries. You see, क्या होता है? Brazil and Thailand's destinations are all Asian continents. They are all our neighbors. We are at advantage in two ways. One, the ocean freight, logistics, we are near to those Asian countries. Then sugar coming all the way from Brazil or Thailand into these markets. So we have the logistic advantage, the freight advantage rather. And second, the raw sugar that we produce is VVHP, not VHP. Very, very high polarized and which has the excellent quality, free flowing, and therefore it is more acceptable. When we first went with the government delegation to various countries like Korea, Malaysia, Indonesia, Bangladesh, and so on and so forth, every time this quality aspect was hampered on them through the presentations. कि भाई हम जो आपको raw sugar देने जा रहे हैं ये quality की है. And then they started thinking about it. They compared our quality of raw sugar against versus this one, Thailand and Brazilian raw sugar. Dextran free. Dextran, we explained them what is Dextran and how our sugar is Dextran free because our cane comes to the mill in a fresh condition, unlike other countries. And therefore the fresh cane is taken for crushing and you get the Dextran free, free flowing VVHP raw sugar. Then these might sound repetitive, but I think it's worth engraving those highlights that I shared with you. Now let's go to the world sugar scenario. Next, please. Yeah. Dr. Corvig, he has already vetted these numbers in his excellent presentation in the morning. It's surplus by at least 35 lakh tons during sugar season 22-23, thanks to high production in India and Pakistan. You got to accept this. Thailand, the second largest exporter of sugar, will also produce 115 lakh tons. Thailand is gearing up. Thailand once upon a time was a big, number 2 exporter. But due to bad season there last 4 or 5 years, they were almost in a dormant stage, but now they have woken up. So rise in domestic global consumption of sugar, it can't be ignored. And as we saw in the morning presentation, the world S&D, the year-on-year growth in consumption has jumped from 0.5%. This was 0.5% in the COVID period. which has now jumped to plus 1.4%. So the consumption world wants more sugar, and that's one hope for all exporting countries. Next, please. Brazil, the largest exporter of sugar, may produce, I'm saying 320 to 340. Dr. Corvig in the morning gave us a figure of 319 lakh tons, so it's almost matching. Brazil is facing the impact of extensive and intense cold wave. ये आपकी recent news में आपने देखा होगा कि the harmfulness of frost to the crop will depend on its level of intensity, the temperature and duration, and the stage in which the cane field is. It is good and bad. When the cane is ready to harvest, frost can be beneficial for increasing the sucrose content. But the worst case happens when the cane has not fully grown and the frost kills the apical and terminal bud of the plant. In these situations, the cane harvested will show significant losses in agriculture productivity and sucrose content, and that's the stage now. And therefore, we are keeping a watch on what's happening in the Brazil. Rise in crude oil prices will also help move more diversion of sugarcane towards ethanol. We all know this. And the last slide I'm sharing with you is India. Next, please. Yeah. Sugar export opportunity. And that was the key of today's presentation. In my opinion, friends, geopolitical events are supporting Indian sugar industry. India can bridge the global demand for sugar season 22-23 again. I'll just recall in the recent Dubai conference, many of us were there. You must have seen this time, for the first time, entire focus was on India. I mean, I've been attending Dubai conference many years down the line, but this year, everybody was talking about India. अरे इंडिया में क्या हो रहा है? इंडिया में प्रोडक्शन कितना हो रहा है? इंडिया एक्सपोर्ट करने है? इंडिया का सब्सिडी का क्या होगा? See, the focus of the world sugar is on India because now we have created that fear in the mind of other countries. And therefore, I feel that India is definitely going to be there in the international market in the year 22-23. Now, the third bullet is a little thoda hatke hai. What I'm trying to say here, within the initial 4 months of our production, हम लोग क्या करते हैं? पहले 4 महीने में 185 lakh tons sugar production बनती है. उसमें से 130 lakh tons हम internally consume करते हैं. I got all the stats to support my this statement. So what I'm trying to bring home here, कि हमारा सीजन शुरू हो जाता है अक्टूबर, नवंबर, दिसंबर, जनवरी. उस 4 महीने में हम लोग 130 लाख टन अपने लोकल कंजम्पशन किया करते हैं. एंड देयरफॉर अगेन कमिंग बैक टू माय ऑप्टिमिज्म कि इवन इफ ब्राजील स्टार्ट्स इन अप्रैल, वी वुड स्टिल बी इन द इंटरनेशनल मार्केट एंड डूइंग वेल. दैट्स द पॉइंट आई वांट टू ब्रिंग होम. Indian sugar mills can enter into forward contracts. Now here is something which an opportunity we are missing out, especially my friends from cooperative sugar sector. They are all here. Please listen to me carefully. Forward trading, forward contracts, you can do it right now. See the markets. International forward trading is for 18 months. So look at the prices there and do the contracts right now. Many private millers are doing it, and I would like my cooperative friends to follow that. On the raw sugar, they can export about 40 lakh tons sugar in the initial 4 months of crushing. This will help to stabilize the price of sugar in the domestic market. Obviously, we have seen that. एक ज़माना था जब आप MSP बढ़ाओ, 31 रुपए बहुत दिन हो गए, FRP बढ़ गई. I was the one who used to go to JS sir. लेकिन अभी हम ये डिमांड लेके नहीं जा रहे उनके पास. क्यों? MSP तो 31 वहीं रही है और 32 के ऊपर हमारी प्राइस गई है. इसकी वजह क्या है? एक, एक्सपोर्ट बढ़िया हो रहा है, एंड देन सबज्यूमिंग ऑफ almost 34 lakh tons expected this year, sugar going into ethanol. So ये दो चीज़ों मिला के हम देख रहे हैं कि domestic prices and जितना export होगा उतना domestic price अच्छा मिलने वाला है. India sugar mills in particular, the cooperative mills, here is, I really, it pains me to share this despite representing the cooperatives here. They need to take care of the global domestic demand on one side. वो हम करते हैं, but commercial aspects of professionally. ये professionality जो है, professionally contract एक बार किया तो वो committed contract पूरा करना. जो हमने जुबान दी है उसके जुबान के मुताबिक आगे चलना है. इम्प्रूवमेंट जरूर है उसमें, लेकिन मेरे ख्याल से और भी बहुत इम्प्रूवमेंट होना जरूर है. इस पर मैं ज़्यादा जोर इसीलिए दे रहा हूँ कि समझदारों को इशारा काफ़ी है. इससे मैं ज़्यादा नहीं बोलना चाहता इसमें. Export house, of course, my request to the export house here, also the representatives here, they need to be flexible and supportive to the Indian sugar industry because This anomalous sugar season 21-22 may not continue in 22-23. So therefore, the global thumb rule, as we have seen, and many of you know, that in Brazil, the EBP, ethanol blending program, 1% rise takes away 7 lakh tons of sugar. So simple calculation देखिए आप कि when we started, I think last ethanol year we closed at 8.1%. We are almost touching 10 lakh tons sugar going into. That means जो 10% minus 8.1 ये simple calculation करके देखा तो हर 1% हम EBP बढ़ाते हैं तो 7 लाख चीनी हमारी सब्जी में हो जाती है इथेनॉल में. तो ये भी ख्याल में रखना बहुत जरूरी है. I conclude by reiterating Dr. Corwig's. I was very impressed, Doctor. If he's here, I would like to compliment him. Excellent, very realistic presentation. I mean, we have seen many international forecasters, estimators, big names, but in Dr. Corwig's presentation, I found more realistic, ground reality hai unki. And his tagline, I would like to borrow, India is new Brazil. I really like that line. And we take away from this conference, India is new Brazil, and not only in sugar, but also in the ethanol blending program, sugar production and sugar exports. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nayak Navare Sahib. Wonderful presentation, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I would now like to acknowledge all of your presence here today. So may I invite Shri Dipesh Bhai Thakkar ji, Managing Committee Member of AISTA on the stage, and you will honor Shri Siddharth Amin, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Siddharth Amin, for your valuable presence here this afternoon. Thank you, Dipesh Bhai. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. I'd like to invite Shri Jitu Bhai Shah, Joint Secretary AISTA, on the stage, please. Shri Jitu Bhai Shah, may I invite you on the stage. And you will honor Shri Gopal Sood ji. Sir, please. Big round of applause for both of them. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sood Saab. Thank you, Jitu Bhai. I'd like to invite Mr. Hussain, Managing Committee Member, AISTA, on the stage, please. Hussain Saab. Thank you. And you will honor Shri Prakash Nayak Navare ji. Thank you. A group photograph, please, with all of you. Thank you, gentlemen. So that was a wonderful session which we had this afternoon, the penultimate one. Ladies and gentlemen, on stage, some of the industry leaders, AISTA members, AISTA chairman, AISTA vice chairman. Big round of applause. Come on, everybody. Thank you. Dhanyawad. Thank you so much, everybody. And finally, we have come to our final session of this evening. Before you get a break, this will be a wonderful session.